Welcome to the ABQ Accent, where catalysts, innovators, and risk takers share what their accent is on their work. Like a spoken accent, we all have an inflection or emphasis on where we put our energy. Join us to learn how these folks are putting their accents to work, building their vision of the future, and how you can get involved. Hi, this is Mariah Harrison with the ABQ Accent, and I'm here with Stephanie Graham Becker, the Executive Director and Superintendent of Amy Biehl High School here in downtown Albuquerque. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I know you have some busy days.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right. So my memory of meeting you was when I was a staff member at UNM, and we were working with some big picture ideas of what UNM could be doing more with community engagement and high schools and stuff like that. And I think at the time you were already the community engagement director at Amy Biehl.
I was. I think so. You're right.
Yeah, back in the day.
How long ago? Yeah.
Right. And so and subsequently have been able to reconnect with you now and then over the years at the Brew Coffee Shop downtown, which is the shirt I'm repping today. Thought that would be appropriate.
Our favorite hangout.
Yeah, and it is a community, and it is something I was thinking about this morning is as we make choices about where we spend our time outside of work and home, my colleague Jeff Hertz runs an Instagram called Third Spaces, and it's some of the research that he's done about where we spend our time. What is our third space? And I think the brew is one of those for us.
Indeed. There's no question. We also like to call it our faculty lounge.
Yeah, I get that. It's my second office. And so in those moments when I've been able to reconnect with you, I just feel a special kind of energy and maybe something that I would like to see in myself about you.
Oh,
I'm sorry, a little more emotional than I thought I'd be.
Oh.
There's just some people that come through your life, whether it's for a reason that you recognize or not. And I'm taking advantage of that now to be able to give you some props and a voice on this platform.
Well, that's kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
The feeling's mutual, Mariah. So know that I really, really appreciate all the work you do for our community downtown.
Thank you. So let's hear more about your background and what really brought you to this work at Amy Biehl. Like I said, I think initially came in, that you told me in 2009, so you're working into your 15th year. And where are you now? What's up?
Yeah, well, I started at Amy Biehl as the Spanish teacher, but prior to landing at Amy Biehl, I had been a graduate student. I had finished my Ph.D. in what was Spanish and Portuguese, but my specialty has always been in Mexican Chicano literature and film, with this kind of women's studies background that infiltrates everything. And so I came, I had worked in Sandia Prep for before, and I worked in California when we were there for a few years, and I felt like all of the work that I had done prior, when I saw the ad at Amy Biehl and they said, our mission is scholarship and service, I thought, that is where I want to work. Yeah. So I was really excited to land a job there as the Spanish teacher, and because of a small school like that, if you're interested in doing other things, there is that availability to flex. But I do remember my first year evaluation with my then boss, Mike May, and my supervisor, Brian Worley, and they were like, how do you think the year went? And I said, well, I feel like everything I've done before has combined to help me land here. Because even in my heritage Spanish class, we would go and do service every other week, and we would go and tutor the kids at Dolores Gonzalez and create partnerships, educational partnerships, service partnerships, even as early as then.
Right.
And so I think the other thing I want to say, which is really interesting, is that my dad said I was born saying, it's not fair. So for me, knowing that I could participate in some kind of activity that would then lift all boats to make sure that some disengaged students were having opportunities that maybe they wouldn't be able to have in a traditional high school. If I could make a little difference that way, that's what I was supposed to do.
Well, and being able to recognize the small unfairness and the large unfairness in the bigger picture makes you someone who can articulate that to the students in a number of different ways. And it's not just your passion, but it's reasons for them to stay engaged. So
stick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the framework of Amy Biehl and who she was and how the school came into existence. And because I feel like it's been around so long that maybe some people take for granted the idea, but it is really a distinct reasoning for service and community engagement even in a global perspective.
Indeed, indeed. When Tony Monfoletto and Tom Siegel decided they were going to create a school like Amy Biehl, they knew that they wanted to re-engage students. Mm-hmm. They knew that they had to find a kind of a different way. But they also said, and we just had our 25th anniversary, and the founders came back to tell us the story. They said that they really wanted to name the school after a young person. Mm. They felt like an old dead president wasn't really mm-hmm. going to engage them, mm-hmm. nor would it call their attention. So they, this was in 1999. Yeah. As they're getting the school ready, and Amy Biehl had just, had been in the news in the prior 5 years. Mm-hmm. Amy was a scholar, a Stanford graduate, Fulbright winner, Fulbright scholar in South Africa, working to end apartheid. Mm. That was something she believed in firmly. So she was driving some friends home to a black township, and the rioters just saw a white oppressor. They didn't know who she was. Yeah. And so they pulled her out of the car and murdered her. Mm. And in their subsequent trial, Peter and Linda Biehl knew that Amy would not have wanted for them to face a retributive or penalizing sort of counsel, in a sense, in justice. Mm. And they opted to promote and sustain and agree to an amnesty. Mm. So that so all the four that were involved were granted amnesty. And then two of the killers got in touch with the Biehls afterwards and said, all right, what are we going to do? There's something has to happen here in South Africa. Wow. And they wanted to transform their community. And they called on the Biehls to partner with them, and the Biehls said, absolutely. They created a foundation and have worked for the last over 25, almost 30 years, mm-hmm. getting close, mm-hmm. To create positive after-school programs for South African youth. There's now an Amy Biehl Foundation here in the United States that offers scholarships for Spirit Awards. But Molly, Amy's little sister, has said, it's a rare thing to have taken your kids to Disney World with the folks who murdered your sister. Mm. But their story in forgiveness and restorative justice in the name of Amy is really what drives our mission. Mm-hmm. And this is when I say to my students, when it's time for them to go out into the community and serve, that every single time you walk off this campus and you go serve people, you take a little bit of Amy Biehl with you. Not only on your shirt, but in your heart. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we all do. I think, we did a survey of our staff not too long ago and said, what part of our mission really, really moves you? And almost 100% said, well, the service. We really, obviously scholarship is what we do as teachers, mm-hmm. right, as instructors. But adding that service component enriches the work so much.
It's really beautiful, and I appreciate that extra piece of reality of her life, and it's really beautiful. I feel like the subsequent steps after her death was really something she would have agreed with and wanted. Her parents followed through, just like with her heart. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what is a student experience like from freshman to senior year? I know that service is part of the trajectory as a whole, and then also in that framework and curriculum, how do you engage external partners?
Oh, I landed, and Amy Biehl had already been around for about 10 years, so I got very lucky in that there were some established mm-hmm. Connections, and we were able to build on those and really see where service learning and the senior project could grow and get really solidified with clear sort of outcomes that we were expecting. Kids, we want them to be, as we say in our mission, not only college bound, but career ready, mm-hmm. and obviously civic minded. That's part of it. But, mm-hmm. Career ready looks different all the time. And so we create opportunities for kids to go out and do service on one afternoon a month throughout the year. And then we have MLK Day, which is a huge celebration work day.
Right.
So a ninth grader can expect to start at Amy Biehl in an advisory with a bunch of other students that may or may not be their same age, but this mixed group advisory that kind of creates their foundation and family. And from there, then they'll work, and depending, they oftentimes will have student choice. Sometimes the advisor will be like, come on, let's go here. So, but they'll serve in different places. They could go to the Burnco Animal Shelter, Echo Food Bank, or the Storehouse, or the Biopark, any sort of opportunities that kind of come up. And there'll be folks that call us. Project Feed the Hood had a crew out last week, and just many hands make for light work, as they've said. And so, and we like to have them try something different. So, it'll be 8 times a year as ninth graders. Their curriculum is a college prep curriculum that focuses on that, but we also make sure that within even the social studies component, they think about what kind of agent for change will they be? What kind of levers of power will you need to access to be a change? When Gandhi told us to be that change we want to see in the world, we remind them of that all the time. And so don't be part of the problem. Don't complain about the problem. How can you be part of the solution? And so that happens in 9th grade and 10th grade. And by 11th grade, if they want to start looking at other spaces, they can maybe share and go to different advisories. But for the most part, by the time they're in 11th grade, they've got an idea about where they want to go. And the second half of their 11th grade, they decide, they do some real introspection. What are their talents? What are their passions? And then they begin to plan their senior project, whereby their senior year, they will serve a minimum of 100 hours at an organization that they've found where they want to make a difference. And that essential question is a 2-part in one for them to sort of finish out the year, and that's their capstone service learning project. And they have to answer the 2 questions in one: how did I change? So how did I make that change? What was my transformation? And how did I change at my site? And what sort of legacy did I leave as a result of the work I did?
That's really, I think, maybe a critical missing piece of so many different service projects is what is the ripple effect of the work I did inside and outside. I really love that and it's something they don't stop talking about the whole time they're there. It's just it's entwined in the education.
I think having a different perspective, for so long we've thought community service has this it's like doing push-ups as a penalty, right? It shouldn't be a penalty. It should be something we're joyfully and excitingly getting involved in because we're making a difference. We're part of a community. Right.
Yeah, and they get, at least, they're ushered into the idea and given some choices, and then by the end, it seems like they just be more naturally connected because they get to make their own choice at the end about where they think, whatever that matching feeling is for them.
And then they actually come back and serve.
That was the next question, is what's happening after graduation? How do you stay engaged or celebrate them?
Well, we stay in touch through, kind of traditional social media ways, but, we love to celebrate the huge successes, and we try to re-involve them. We have 2 alums currently serving on our boards. One is on our foundation board and the other is on our governing board. And then sometimes they like to come back and be Lit Circle volunteers, or they might re-engage. I think we have one who's going to be a senior project mentor. Right on. I can't even believe it's happening right now. That's one that I taught. So, dang. Yeah. But it's really exciting to see them continually re-engaging with our school through service, really living the mission way beyond their graduation date.
Yeah. It just builds a more defined connection with the school. And you have, I think, a deeper connection to the external community that is participating with the school. And so maybe that's a good connection to the rest of your work. That I am perceiving is not just the school, but it is, it's where you live, and it is the area of downtown. And I know that you are intentionally trying to support downtown and improve the quality of life there. So talk to me a little bit about where you're at or maybe the crossover between school and Stephanie's community life.
I'm not really sure there's any blurring of spaces. It's just all community. Yeah. But it's, it's something I believe in passionately. And, we're organizing downtown in a, I think, more deliberate and intentional way. Mm-hmm. And so the ABQ Core Downtown Neighborhood Association is one that I've been involved with, and tonight we're going to host their monthly gathering at Amy Biehl. They're excited because they get a little tour of the space, and it is a lovely building, and we love to have folks come in and see it, because it's not many high schools are plunked down in the middle of downtown and have to engage with the whole community, and I think that's really important as the leader of that school, that I stay connected with my community neighbors. And so I love doing business with all of our neighbors, and I love making sure our students are serving them well. Mm-hmm. We let them off campus, and so they can have engage in real life. We don't have a school that's sort of a prison structure.
Mm-hmm. It's not locked down.
Now there's a long leash.
I know that from seeing them around at lunchtime or a break or whatever, maybe in the mornings before they're getting ready to go to school. Mm-hmm. So the core neighborhood is a piece of that, and then there's the story of maybe something that's a little bit more personal in how you are engaging with your neighborhood. And I just, the conversation that we had yesterday about what your first answer, I think, about staying grounded was very much your kids, and then the other piece of that was your neighborhood. And it's not a formal association, it's something you've created and participated in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have the enormous good fortune of living on a little street where everybody apparently knows everybody. And I really think that is a microcosm of Albuquerque in general, too, and I'll get back to that. But our little street, we live off Hyder Park. Our kids have grown up all around the park and gone to school there. And if you have kids, that a lot of times your life sort of is focused on them and then the parents that are involved with that. So I think we landed in probably the luckiest of all spaces in that my children grew up, with playing kickball in the park or playing soccer, and then walking to school, and just having access to friends and family and neighbors that were deeply invested in their well-being. It wasn't just like, I don't know who that kid is. And everybody knows everybody. And that is grounding in a sense where you feel connected to not just the folks across the street, but the gal who lives at the bottom of the street, or, folks that live around the park. And, we gather for book club. We used to have, oh my gosh, Halloween parties in the park. And then they would go, and I can't even, it flies by so quickly. Right. But even those kids come back and participate in sort of family activities or gatherings. We just had an impromptu gathering at the park last weekend because we were like, hey, we haven't done this in forever. And so those connections and those relationships, and I would have to say, Mariah, that almost everything for me in grounding is being in relationship with people, whether it's my neighbors around my house or my neighbors downtown, but it's deep and abiding relationships with folks. Think about Juan, how could I live a day without grabbing a coffee, but seeing Juan, Victor, and Sandra at the brew? I mean, it's those relationships that are important.
And I think that you're living a little bit of that example for your students and your kids day to day. It's nice to see. And if I may, there's also a sense of the connections that your kids were able to grow up around. There's a privilege to that. And the thing is that they recognize that, and you recognize that, and you put into practice what you know about the importance of connection into community relationships. I think I'm intrigued by the idea of cycles. It is a cyclical relationship that feeds itself, and also sense of justice, anti-racist work. There's a number of things that you've partaken in, or your kids and your students have partaken in, that I think are a reflection of your knowledge of where your work lies.
Well, again, as my dad said, if it's not fair, we have to do something to make sure it's fair. Yeah. And I think that's been a guiding force for me all my life, like seeing inequity and thinking, how can that be? this person deserves a chance as much as everybody else. So when I think about my early work, really trying to elevate who I saw as my raza, even just girls. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, it's not just girls. You know, it's the whole raza community. And how do we get, and we're, at least in Amy Biehl, we're really, not focused just on first gen, but first generation college attendees have so many hurdles to overcome. So how do we serve them? How do we make sure they've got a level playing field? And that's just part of it.
Well, and the long-term perspective of the career readiness is paramount for that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So also, in that work, kudos to the internal work that you've done and the more educational level that you've always been at. You got your Ph.D., you've published, you've been an adjunct at UNM, you are multilingual, and you are a world traveler. So there's a lot of
accolades. Thank you. No.
Well, and I think also I'm impressed by somebody who's able to take on language like that too. So your relationships are that much deeper, which is something you specifically said about speaking to somebody in their own language, recognizing who they are, and getting to know them that way.
I didn't get to go out of the country until I was, maybe 17 was the first time, and then I spent a year abroad. And it was when you finally know that you're communicating with somebody on their level, in their language, not having to mess about with hand gestures or anything else, but then you can really understand them. And it's a huge gift. It's a great blessing to be able to do that. Yeah.
I can feel I need to practice every day. My accent's not terrible, but my production of the language of Spanish is
it's
lacking.
It's got to do it. It's like a practice. You're right. Yeah.
So in that worldly travel perspective, you told me that you take your students somewhere every year. What's the purpose of that, and where have you been lately?
We went to Italy in March, and so I have said for as long as I can remember that I wish it would be a requirement for high school graduation that every high schooler leave the country for at least a couple of weeks, maybe 4, but anytime. When my own niece right now is in Cuba, and the WhatsApp messages I'm getting from Anna are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before. I can't believe how privileged I am. And it's that kind of perspective. It just opens your eyes to something you've never seen before. And there is not one student that I have traveled with out of this country that hasn't been transformed by the experience. And it could be for a lot of reasons. It could be they realize they can manage their money on their own. They realize they don't need somebody waking them up every morning to get to school. It's something very simple about who they are, but kids are transformed. Yeah. And so New Mexicans are a kind of isolated bunch. And I really noticed early on in my work at Amy Biehl that we had these students that were exceptional and had great opportunities and maybe a full ride to a school way back east. And they weren't ready for that experience. And then their families would say, and if your family is used to having you around all the time, you might say, of course, mijito, come on home, right? And I don't dock them on that, but I think, gosh, stick it out 2 more years, just stick it out 1 more month. And by having them leave the country for even 2 weeks, they're like, oh, I got this, I can do this. Yeah. And so selfishly, I was like, come on, you guys, I can't see you waste $75,000 a year of the scholarship, because it's tough the first 2 weeks. Like, get on, come on back. Right.
That's great. Where are you planning next year? Do you know yet?
Yeah, we went to Italy this year in March. Next year we're going to go to Scandinavia, so we're going to see the capitals of Scandinavia. We were in Panama the year before, and so...
and you're not just sitting around.
Oh, no. We've done some great trips where there's service involved, like we've replenished the mangrove groves in Costa Rica. Right on. We've helped build a school in Peru. We've done, brought school supplies to little kids in Nicaragua. So there's all kinds of cool stuff to do. And then sometimes there's just, you're going to go to the Louvre and really appreciate that art.
The tours. It's a culturally relevant trip on purpose.
Indeed. Yeah.
Sounds like. I might be able to carry your luggage next year. We'll see.
We barely take any because we're traveling so much.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is I get to learn to decrease?
Yeah, manage everything.
Yeah. I guess there's so much more to Amy Biehl and Stephanie that I want to celebrate. And well, actually, we can go back to book club, because I feel like the concept that you guys have built into your group isn't just about sharing a book. It's a larger experience of the relationships that you had and you want to build. But what are you reading right now?
Oh, so not lit circles from our school, but my own
Your
personal book club.
Yeah.
We're reading Hernan Diaz's book Trust,
Okay.
and it's remarkable. I mean, we started with Jane Eyre, and yes, and so there's always a big discussion about, okay, what's going to be next, and I love our book club because we actually do talk about the book. Sometimes we talk smack about each other in our reading, but it's deep and abiding love. We've been neighbors forever, and we've raised our kids together. So it's almost like having siblings. So it's this big messy family dinner where you're like, nah, you didn't. What, you thought that? And then we love to call out the people who like to talk about the book even though they didn't read it.
Sure.
But Trust is an incredible text where there's 4 different narratives woven into one, and it's all fiction, and yet it feels so real, and maybe it's true. But it's been really a lot of fun reading. I can't wait to hear what they say this Saturday.
I'm going to have to check it out.
I'll pass you my book.
Yeah, I'm currently reading, and have been forever because I haven't been able to catch time, Braiding Sweetgrass. Have you heard of that?
Braiding Sweetgrass. That is my son's favorite book.
I've been giving it to people for Christmas even before I'm done with it.
He opened the book up to one part and had me read it, and we were both weeping together. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, that's mainly.
I know our permaforest guru, Sandra Mack, has been reading that and shares it. I want to say at our school, we're kind of ahead of the game in sustainability and thinking about, how we can combat climate change and make a difference. And so I know she's been sharing part of that book with her students.
Yeah, there's a little bit of message in every single chapter that is a takeaway for.
Oh, it is stunning.
Yeah.
You stop and I think it's better to have read it the way you're reading it, because you can pull it in and absorb it for a while and sit with it and then re-engage and then share it with everybody. I don't know about you, but I'm like, I just read the best part.
Yeah.
You've got to read this part.
Yeah. That, or I have to explain to the person in the coffee shop next to me why I'm crying, why they should read the book.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I know.
But there are things like that, that I think you've got a really large appreciation for, like you mentioned in earlier, that you're interested in filmmaking, and that was part of your adjunct work, international specifically type of film. Is there anything you want to share about just what you love about it?
I think I've always been a huge fan of film, but and I've always been a nerd reader. I remember my dad saying, wait a minute, you get to read books and watch movies and then talk about it, teach about it. I was like, yes, that's the best job. I love leading the school, but I do love teaching so much. So being involved in teaching has been great. And film itself is just this combination of art. It's not just a text. It's not just image.
Right.
It's this woven image, sound, or lack thereof, and how does that affect it, and narrative. So there's so many elements of film that are fun to explore and teach and just appreciate.
Yeah. Well, the sense of teaching somebody how to express themselves in multiple ways.
Indeed.
Is a lesson in itself. So what are you excited about for the rest of the year? We have summer coming up. Graduation is tomorrow.
Graduation is tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you again for being here today.
Yeah, it'll be so beautiful. We love our graduations at Amy Biehl are unparalleled. One of the greatest things that happens is that the Hecatl, the Aztec dancers, come and bless our ceremony.
That's lovely.
And Paz and his crew, I can't even say enough. It's just, it really sets the tone. It reminds us where we come from and where my colleagues and where we are, what we're all about. And so it blesses us and sets the tone. And we don't have a traditional big surprise ceremony, but we have students that offer something to the class, and so we'll have a couple doing some songs or dances or and that's what it is. We don't have speeches. I mean, if they wanted to offer a speech, they would, and we've had that in the past, and give some awards and enjoy the beauty that is the chemo. What a treasure we have in that.
True.
And just celebrate. I mean, I will. This was the class that started in COVID, and
It was.
And I remember starting their year, handing them all their Chromebooks outside, like in the shade, but making sure they got what they needed. And all we did was be online for the first, 6-7 months. And so,
It's a trip.
yeah, and they have really overcome a lot. And so we're very, very proud of them.
Yeah.
Because they know this. They could have at any time said, I'm out. This is too hard. I want to go and do an easier pathway. And there are plenty of other easy pathways, and they stuck to it.
Yeah.
And I'll remind them of that tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're all proud of them too. How many are we graduating?
I want to say 33.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice
something
little
like that.
group
It
of
was
people to,
Right.
yeah.
We're glad they stuck it out. Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to leave us with? Like if there's maybe a challenge you're looking at and you want more engagement, you want people to support a particular thing, or if there's just something on your heart you want to share?
Well, I'm so grateful that our Amy Biehl students are part of downtown. And, for the most part, at least as far as I've been able to tell, really contribute to the vitality of downtown and the beauty that is downtown. And, I'm hoping that we can continue to co-create a more vibrant downtown and support Amy Biehl students as they move on for graduation and hopefully partnering with Siembra and making sure we see what they can do down there. It's really great to have schools close to an urban center so that they're witness to what I like to call real life is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, come be a Lit Circle volunteer.
Right. Yeah. If they want to get involved, they can reach out.
That's a fun thing. Yeah. Indeed. And we, whenever we have public exhibitions, we love to have the staff, folks come and visit.
Is the school followable on socials?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You can. I'm pretty sure there's the Amy Biehl Foundation on Facebook that starts it, and then I'm sure they have Instagram, and I know that we have one gal running our TikTok. So
I do follow the foundation. Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Well, as I said, that might be kind of the tip of the iceberg, but I appreciate the time you've had today and just being here today. It's appreciated.
Well, thank you. You have some great questions, and I appreciate all the accolades. We have a great school downtown, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thanks everybody for listening today. Our usual shout out to the Bloomstone for offering us this beautiful crystal today. So thanks to everybody listening. We hope you come back to another ABQ Accent.
Thank you.